Bias in sampling, section 1.5. If the results of a sample are not representative of the population, then the sample has bias. So if you have results from a sample and it is not representative of the population, then the sample has bias. Okay? Doesn't mean it's on purpose, but it has it. Sampling bias means that the techniques used to obtain the samples of individuals tends to favor one part of the population over another. Sampling bias also results due to what we call undercoverage. Undercoverage, which occurs when the proportion of one segment of the population is lower in the sample than it is in the population. A researcher is conducting a poll about national politics, and it sends a survey to a random sample of subscribers of Time magazine. This would be sampling bias because you're only taking people who subscribe to Time magazine. Well, almost nobody subscribes to magazines anymore, but back in the day people did. But maybe certain types of people, maybe a certain demographic of people, maybe a certain political sway of people subscribe to Time. And maybe if I have my mind set a certain way about politics, I don't like Time, so I don't subscribe to it. So then whoever that segment of the population is, then they're undercovered there, or it's undercoverage, or they just don't, they're not part of this because they're not subscribers to Time. So it's not a good sample because it's going to have bias for various reasons. Non-response exists when individuals that are selected don't respond. So individuals selected to be in the sample who do not respond to the survey have different opinions from those who do. So you don't respond, I respond and give my opinion, but then you don't give yours and yours is different from mine. Well, now the sample looks like it's more like me when really you were part of it too. You just didn't answer them for whatever reason. And it can occur because individuals selected for the sample do not wish to respond, okay, or the interviewer was unable to contact them. All surveys suffer from non-response. Response rates in random digit dialing. Telephone surveys are typically around 70%. 70%. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the phone rang, you always picked it up because it was somebody you knew. And that was when I was a kid. If they called your number, they were calling your number because they meant to call your number. Every now and then there would be a wrong number dial, but it wasn't, these telemarketers that we have now that might call you for some reason. So random digit dialing created that, and then people quit answering the phone and that kind of stuff. That's why we have caller ID. Who's calling me? You tricked me long enough. Now who's calling me? And I'm not answering if I don't know your number. Whereas email survey response rates hover around 40%. Non-response bias can be controlled using callbacks. For example, if you mail a questionnaire and it was not returned, a callback might mean phoning the individual to conduct a survey. So let's talk about here another method to improve non-response is using rewards such as cash payments for completing a questionnaire or incentives such as a cover letter that states the responses will determine future policy. So, I've gotten several of these things in the past where, hey, you fill this out, we'll give you a $10 card, or, you get them at restaurants a lot. Hey, go fill out this survey and we'll give you a free, chicken strip dinner when you come back. Or fill this survey out and we'll give you a free drink with your meal next time. Or fill this survey out and we'll give you a free biscuit or whatever, okay? So, and some people are like me, free food, count me in, all right? So, that's just one way to help improve non-response. But sometimes somebody asks you a question, you just don't want to answer them, you're just not going to answer them. Doesn't matter what they offer you. Response bias exists when the answers on a survey do not reflect the true feelings of the respondent. All right, respondent. So, and let me write that where you can actually read it maybe. I'm not sure it's possible that I can do that, but anyway. Response bias can occur in a number of ways. Interviewer error. A skilled interviewer can elicit truthful responses, thus obtaining accurate information, but poorly trained interviewers do not accomplish this. And the interviewees may fail to understand their questions, or they may be inclined to not give an honest response. Don't trust survey results if the sponsor of the survey has a vested interest in the results. If you're watching an advertisement about a Ford dealership and they say 98% of our customers like us, well, they're your customers, and you have a vested interest. Don't trust that survey. Okay? Would you trust a survey conducted, there it is, by a car dealer that reports 90% say they'd buy another car? Well, they're their customers, right? Misrepresented answers. Some survey questions result in responses that misrepresent facts or are flat out lies. For example, a survey of recent college graduates may find that self-reported salaries are inflated. Right? You get out of college, mom and dad say, hey, you got to go to college, you got to go get out and make some money. And then somebody comes along and asks you, hey, you just graduated from college, how much you make? $45,000 a year, when you really make 30. Right? You're going to tell them, though, that way when your mom and daddy read that report, see it on the internet, new college teachers make $60,000 a year, and really it's 28, right? But everybody self-inflated it, right? Or when they survey, one might overstate or understate the number, or overstate the number of push-ups he can do within a minute. How many push-ups can you do in a minute? 120. That's 2 a second. Can you really? Right? So, or how many cigarettes do you smoke a day? 3 when it's really 33. You're understated. It can be overstating, understating, whatever. Wording of questions. Questions must always be asked in a balanced form. Do you oppose a tax increase on gasoline in Mississippi? Should be worded as, do you favor or oppose a tax increase on gasoline? Another consideration is the wording. A question is not to be vague. How much do you study? Well, it should be replaced by how many hours do you study statistics each week? Okay? So the wording of the question matters. The ordering of questions. Many surveys will rearrange the order of questions within a questionnaire so that the responses are not affected by prior questions. Look at number 20 here. This is from the textbook, number 20 here. Do you believe that the government should or should not be allowed to prohibit individuals from expressing their religious beliefs at their place of employment? If you start with that question, then many people may say, you know what, that's where they work and we have freedom of religion. They can express it whatever they want to. That's fine. But look at the next question. The next question says, do you believe that the government should or should not be allowed to prohibit teachers from expressing their religious beliefs in the public school classroom? Now you're talking about public school, which is government funded, so the government can, every now and then have a say about what goes on in there, right? So if you turn those around and you ask the public classroom question first, you may get more no's for the part A there. So see, do you think the order in which the questions are asked will affect survey results? If so, what can the pollster do to alleviate the response bias? Discuss the word choice as well. Prohibit. Should they be allowed to prohibit this? Well, right, if you fall on the side of, hey, I better be able to express my religious beliefs, then you don't like the word prohibit. But if you fall on the side of, hey, I don't want you expressing that at work, then you like that word, right? But there again, that word causes some dissension there, and it's a pretty strong word. Okay, so pollsters will rearrange words within a question. For example, a national polling organization routinely asks the following question to 1,000 adults 18 or older: do you approve or disapprove? Or they may say, do you disapprove or approve? They'll rotate it. Of the job that the current president is doing as or the current president is doing as president. Well, right? I mean, the last few presidents have been polarizing. You've either really liked them or really didn't like them. Okay? So, do you approve or disapprove, or do you disapprove or approve? Rearrange the wording. So, the words approve and disapprove are rotated. We just talked about that. The word approve first in every, instead of putting the word approve first every time. I want to go back and talk about this misrepresented answers. If you can think back to the last presidential election, we're having another one coming up here. The last one we had 4 years ago or thereabouts. All the surveys coming out said one thing, and then it felt like the media was shocked when the results came in. And I think that some of the things that we're talking about right here in this section may have happened. You may have had interviewer error. You had people at what they call exit polls. Well, maybe if I want the exit polls to say something, or maybe I'm more comfortable asking people that look like me or that I think voted the way I wanted. So when they're coming out, I'm not necessarily randomly asking them. I'm asking the people that I think are going to give me the answer I want. Think that could have happened? Well, sure. Right? I mean, America, all of America was being fed these numbers, all these exit polls, all these people are voting this way, and then it turned out to be something different. And everybody cried, whatever. But I think that bias was part of it. I mean, it had to be. If the numbers came out a different way than what we thought, and I think misrepresented answers. If you look a certain way and somebody asks you, hey, who'd you vote for? And you come back with an answer, you might not have wanted to answer the truthful answer. You might have answered what you thought they wanted. Or you may have lied about it on purpose. Right? That's one of the reasons I got off of social media was the Egg Bowl and politics. You want to get somebody fired up, start talking about the president or politics. They'll get fired up. The last few presidents, polarizing. Wording of questions. So they could have asked it in a certain way or whatever. But I think mainly it was interview bias and misrepresentation of the answers. You know, who they ask, it wasn't random, that kind of thing. Maybe even convenience. So that's kind of what I believe there about that. Is that things we are talking about right here in this section, these biases occurred and we got to see it. We got to live it just a few years ago. Right? It'd be interesting to see as it happens again with a new election. Do we have the same type of thing happening? Are we hearing all these numbers coming out and then it turns out to be something different than what we thought was happening? If it does, again, I will point to this and say it's bias. Like it or not, whether I like it, you like it, whoever doesn't like it, does like it, that bias would have existed there.